Heya and welcome to the 6th installment of my Ultimate Guild Making Guide series. As a reminder, all of these videos in this series are going to be under the guild making playlist on my channel, and as I make more guild related content, I'll continuously add to that playlist. So when it comes to Final Fantasy XIV, I know for an absolute fact that a lot of people actually dread, and I mean dread, to sit down and spend hours crafting or gathering, and that's not why they came to Final Fantasy XIV. One of the things that makes Final Fantasy XIV so great is that it does have such a diverse array of activities, and that's honestly why we are talking now in this video about the lucrative art of farming trials. So if this video helps you in any way and you want to help support me and my content, I'd be uber appreciative if you dropped a Celestial Kimono Remnant on that like button and tossed Gil all over that subscribe button. Yes, please. So when it comes to active methods to farm Gil that involve combat, I'd easily recommend people to seriously consider farming past trial content. While this might seem like a method that might not be ideal, I can say that even with my really, honestly quite terrible RNG, I am not loved by RNG in any way, that I have gone away with more loot than I could carry some days. But enough of that, let's get right into the Gil. So when we are talking about farming trials, we are actually talking about ultimately feeding into the crafter funnel of items for cosmetic pieces like special glowy weapons, housing items, chocobo bardings, and much more. This hence is going to be a much more lucrative method for those who do have crafters that can actually synthesize these trial drops into their respective high ticket item. Or if you have a friend that crafts for you, bring the reagents to them, and that friend surely would be able to help you, or otherwise ask someone in like Limsa on Gilgamesh to help you craft this, because honestly a lot of these items do gain a lot of value exponentially so when you have them crafted into an item. So take for instance, and I'm just going to go over a lot of instances here because there is a lot of Gil making opportunities through here. So we're going to take the first instance of the Seiryo weapons here. So these are relatively new and very sought after cosmetic items. As I flip through the market board, you can see pretty consistently that this is 1.5 million or so Gil per second single weapon made. Some items even are sold out, like the bow. And keep in mind that this is all on my Silver Gilgamesh's market board, and Gilgamesh is absolutely an active North American server, and here even with the bow and warrior axe you can see these are like sold out. Or let's take the Tsukiyomi weapons that are averaging almost 2.5 million on Gilgamesh a piece. That's crazy. Or let's take a look at the Shinryu weapons. The average here is about 1 million Gil a piece, but even here you can see some very high ticket items like the shield, astrologian weapon, scholar weapon, black mage weapon, gun blade, monk weapon, and machinist weapon are like 2 million Gil a piece. So Shinryu weapons, highly lucrative too. Or what if we took that same Shinryu scale, which is what you're going to actually be farming for when you're doing Shinryu, and you made it into a lucrative housing item like Shinryu's Wing, which is one of the most sought after and, in my opinion, one of the most awesome, epic looking things that you can put up in a house. You get the same thing. It's well over 1 million Gil a pop for one of those wings. Or let's take our gaze and look at Suzaku. Well, honestly, hilariously enough, this also proves the point that I said earlier about people not keeping up with the housing market. The Suzaku wall hanging that also looks super good, it's literally sold out even on Gilgamesh. So looking through the weapon variety now, we can also see that the Suzaku weapons are selling for roughly 1 million Gil or so a piece. So now if we look at older and even easier to farm trials, because we were looking at like the level 70 range there, and you should, for the record, you can get lucrative throughout all of the levels. I will go over that in this example here. But if we look at the older and even easier to farm trials, we can see that even with Sephiroth, that is extremely easy to farm, for the record now, that this housing item, the Sephiroth root, is selling for over 100k a piece, and Weapons of the Fiend are even available to make quite a significant amount of profit from. Remember, glamour is the true end game, and people are willing to throw heaps of Gil at it. Or if we look at the so-called Weapons of the Goddess, they are going for average about 150k to 200k a piece. Likewise, we also have Weapons of the Round also available for purchase, which are also selling quite well. You can also make valued housing items, like the Hades item is selling extremely well, and Hades is one of the more recent ones, so if you're looking to farm out the dragon, as well as Hades items, that will work really well for you. Or the Warrior of Light also has barding that is sold out on Gilgamesh. Are you noticing a trend? These are markets that are not being fully utilized, and so supply and demand, cash in, people, cash in, cash in. Ruby Weapon also has a drop that can make a barding or a housing item that sells quite well. Titania's drops are also making valuable housing items and barding too. Innocent items are also selling decently well and are also a very easy farm at this point, even though it is Shadowbringers content. But I think I have proven my point way over the top at this point and have exposed so many markets. These are all opportunities I strongly suggest that you look into. Trials and what they drop are still super in demand and are still a very viable way to make gil. And to make gil very actively in game rather than passively. Just to be super upfront though, the methods I mentioned before like retainers, GC seals, and the rest still apply in full. Any passive method can and should be used as much as you can and doesn't really impact active methods like this one. But one thing I want to state as clearly as I can is that these trials will often drop weapons. If you follow my GC seal video, you will know to roll on them even though you don't want them. But the warning that I'm going to make as clear as I can here is that you do not want to submit these items for GC seals. Do not submit them for GC seals. You instead want to desynthesize these weapons for a chance to get one of the special drops. Until your desynthesis skill is leveled up, however, the rate is going to be pretty low, but depending on how much you like this method of farming trials and how much you plan to do it, you might really benefit from leveling up your desynthesis skill to get a higher rate of these items. So the moral of the story is always roll on these items and desynthesize them. Now let's talk about targeting the market board, because I just went over an absolutely obscene amount of items earlier, and that marks many of the drops that you can get from the trials. But these particular items don't drop directly, as I said, so you are going to be aiming for particular materials. For instance, if you want to target the Tsukiyomi weapons, then you want to farm Tsukiyomi until she drops her special item called a Celestial Kimono Remnant. So if you're farming the Warrior of Light, you want the Plate of Light to drop, so on and so forth. These are the key reagents that you're actually farming for through this technique. But one thing that I should state super clearly is that all of these drops still drop if you do them unsynced. So when you go into the Party Finder menu, you should always try and find groups doing an unsynced run of these. One of the nice things that you're going to notice is that these runs also attract people farming mounts from them. So do not be shy about joining a mount farm group, because chances are they're honestly going to make up the majority of the groups farming the older trials. That being said, a level 80 geared DPS is going to absolutely blow a level 70 Tsukiyomi out of the water, making farming her materials just that much incredibly easier. The same thing applies to farming other trials, of course. The current trials might pose a little bit more of a challenge though, like Ruby Weapon or the Warrior of Light, but they are still very lucrative methods. Other fights like Sephiroth or the level 50 trials, as you saw earlier with the particular items, also are selling pretty well and are very lucrative in and of themselves. Anyhow, that does it for this video, and if this helped you at any way, or in any way, I would strongly super duper appreciate if you threw a Celestial Kimono Remnant on that like button and tossed some gil on my subscribe button. Take care and have a great day.